Chapter 302, A Clue. The detective, who had been on leave, returned to Grim Garden Street shortly after Klein and the others had finished their lunch. This also meant that his assignment was over. Due to the visible improvement in Adel's situation, Rogo Kalaman was quite generous in the settlement of his pay, and he paid an additional 50% above the £10 which they had agreed upon. As expected of a jewelry businessman to be this generous. However, compared to the other people in Westboro and Empressboro, he isn't considered that rich. Grim Garden Street is close to the suburbs, and it's not too far from the cemetery. I can reach it in 10 minutes if I run at full speed. Miss Bodyguard, Namish Sharon, is highly likely of being a Sequence 5 Beyonder. She charges £1,000 for 3 days, while I, as a Sequence 7 Beyonder, am only worth £15 a day. There's still a big difference. Of course, if I were to take on such missions every day, my income would be over £5,400 a year, putting me at the top of the middle class. Even the top manager of the Backland Bank makes £5,000 a year. Heh. This is just pure fantasy. For most detectives, business comes sporadically, and the amount of Beyonder ingredients I need to advance to Sequence 6 is definitely more than £3,000. Just thinking about it makes my head hurt. For normal people, this is a huge sum of money, enough to sustain a good life. The good news is that even if I grasp the acting method, digesting the Sequence 7 potion will take me somewhere between 6 months to 3 years. Even if I can quickly conclude the rules of a magician, it'll only be able to push forward the lowest threshold by 1 to 2 months. I still have plenty of time to save up and search for clues to these ingredients. Wait, Miss Justice still owes me, Umi Adora, £5,000. However, her financial situation isn't in good shape recently. It will be difficult for her to come up with a large sum of cash in the next few months. Klein took the 3 5-pound notes and left Westboro with thoughts running through his mind. After returning to Minsk Street, he quickly burned the used paper figurine and made another to Moore. In the evening, he took the steam metro to the Backland Bridge district, and according to the numbers provided in the newspapers, he knocked on the door of the house where the gathering would take place. Similar to the past few times, he put on an iron mask that covered only the upper half of his face, wore a hooded black robe, and followed the attendant into the activity room, where only one candle burned quietly. At first glance, Klein noticed that the number of Beyonders present at this gathering was less than half of what it used to be. I came at the exact time. Are the others late? This time, Klein didn't change his gait and picked a corner before sitting down slowly. After a few minutes, the old eye of wisdom cleared his throat and said, "Let's begin the gathering. The others shouldn't be coming." After saying that, he gave a brief explanation. As the serial killer has yet to be found, the Night Hawks, mandated punishers, and the machinery hive mind, as well as a large number of MI9 Beyonders, are out doing large-scale investigations and searches. Under such a situation, it's very normal and understandable for those friends to be unwilling to go out and participate in gatherings. Frankly, I'm surprised by the number of people that showed up today. Sure enough, a circle of Beyonders isn't isolated. They would also be affected by current affairs. Klein looked around and saw that the fat apothecary wasn't absent. His heart immediately relaxed. The apothecary nudged the metal mask on his face, calling out without much hope, seeking to purchase the spring of Elves Marrow crystals. "Price is negotiable." "I have it," Klein said without hesitation. He was worried that someone else might found this Beyonder ingredient, thereby causing the price of his stock of goods to fall. Although Beyonder ingredients were rare, and it was rare for items to reappear in independent circles, one could never be too careful. Seeking to purchase the spring of Elves Marrow crystals, the apothecary didn't seem to hear the response. He was halfway through the sentence when it suddenly struck him. He turned his head to look at Klein and blurted, "You do?" "Yes." Klein found his fiery gaze a little too overwhelming. As he did so, he rolled up his black robe and took out an iron cigarette case. "Pa!" Klein opened the cigarette case, revealing the faded, egg-shaped spring of Elf's Marrow crystal. "If you're worried, you can let the old Mr. Eye of Wisdom appraise it," Klein added in a low voice. This wasn't really necessary, because it was obvious if something was a Beyonder ingredient or not. It was also quickly identified if something was contaminated or not. However, if one was lacking in mysticism knowledge, a Beyonder ingredient could very easily be mixed up with similar-looking ingredients. When that happened, one needed an appraisal. The apothecary looked like he was looking at a beautiful lady he had been yearning for all this time. He looked at the Beyonder ingredient in Klein's hands, mesmerized. After a few seconds, he shook his head and said, "No, there's no need." That's it. Klein curved the corner of his lips into a smile and named his price. 300 pounds and clues to the apothecary formula. Clues to the apothecary formula, it's you. The apothecary was stunned for a moment before he finally understood who the man was. It was the guy who made him bring the sedative for nothing. Soon after, his heart pained, his regrets similarly reaching its limit as he sighed emotionally. "You really are a lucky guy. Why didn't I choose that road of fortune? In the King of Yellow and Black, who wields good luck, after all?" Klein lampooned himself. The apothecary sighed and changed his posture. "That's too expensive. 200 pounds and a clue to the formula." "The clue to the formula is only a bonus because I cannot confirm its veracity. Therefore, 300 pounds, not a penny less. I believe it's needed elsewhere." Klein smiled. This price is actually very fair. If it were anyone else, they might have offered for 100 or even 500 pounds, and you might have even accepted that price. "I'm not that foolish. I can still wait," the apothecary grumbled before saying, "The clue can be verified by old Mr. Eye of Wisdom. It must be something that exists objectively, something that has detailed information before I'm able to appraise it. Just a clue isn't among these conditions," Eye of Wisdom said. Divination, on the other hand, can roughly determine whether the clue is effective as long as it doesn't involve powers 2 or 3 sequences above myself, Klein silently said to himself. However, he wouldn't reveal his expertise in divination at a Beyonder gathering. "All right then, 300 pounds plus the clue. You lucked out." The apothecary took a deep breath and pulled out a thick wad of cash. He then counted the corresponding amount and then asked the attendant to bring him a pen and paper before he started writing. After he was done writing the clue, he crumpled the paper into a ball and handed it along with the cash and some items to the attendant. Klein was suddenly stunned when he saw the attendant walk over. In addition to the cash and clue, there were also 4 glass tubes filled with what seemed to be pure liquids. "What are these?" Klein asked, perplexed. "Have you forgotten? Your sedative, the sedative I specially concocted. It's 10 solely a bottle, 2 pounds for 4. So the cash there is 298 pounds, answered the apothecary. "If you're worried about my sedative, you can have it appraised. I really forgot I did all of that to gain Miss Sharon's trust, and now that she's not here, well, it's fine. Maybe a sedative would be able to handle some unexpected situations." Klein stopped talking, took out the spring of Elf's Marrow crystal, took the items, counted the cash in front of everyone, and determined their authenticity with a faint candlelight. A total of 298 pounds, that's right, seeing that his wallet could no longer hold any more cash. Klein could only roll up the bills and slip them into his pocket. After putting away the sedative, he unfolded the note and glanced at the clue. On the south side of the bridge, on Rose Street, at the Harvest Church, find Bishop Petrovsky. As long as you help him complete a mission, you'll be able to get the apothecary formula. Harvest Church. That's one of the few cathedrals of the Church of Mother Earth in the kingdom. This church also grasps to beyonder pathways. Planter and apothecary, the clues match well. Klein thought as he refolded the note. As the gathering continued, it was unknown whether the female beyonder, with the artisan backing her, wasn't present, or she just didn't have any new beyonder weapons to sell. There were no signs of her, leaving Klein disappointed. Now that he had 509 pounds in hand, he wanted to equip himself nicely. After many transactions were aborted, a man sitting on a stool said in a low voice, "A friend of mine was unfortunately discovered in this investigation. He's imprisoned in a particular Lord of Storms cathedral by the mandated punishers. I wish to hire a few helpers to rescue him." "I have wisdom," immediately replied. "Stray dog, give up that thought. A cathedral's mandated punishers and sealed artifacts are enough to destroy all of us here. Your friend's fate has already been decided. Don't let yourself be trapped in the same situation." Stray Dog looked around and realized that no one responded to his request. He couldn't help but thump his thigh, growling. But what did he do wrong? He's an excellent physician, has saved a lot of patients, and has never hurt anyone. Just because he consumed a potion and became a beyonder, has to be imprisoned in a place where the sun never shines. He'll even become an experimental subject for the mandated punishers? Why Stray Dog's agonized questions echoed in the room. Even the apothecary, who couldn't keep his mouth shut, remained silent. Klein, a former official beyonder, could only sigh deeply in his heart. Without the spread of the acting method, wild beyonders are ticking time bombs. But if the acting method is popularized, then the situation would become even more chaotic and bloody. After all, there are the laws of beyonder characteristics, indestructibility, and conservation. In this heavy atmosphere, the gathering came to an end. Klein, who had gotten nothing else, spoke again. "Who has revolvers and bullets that come augmented with different beyonder effects? For example, purification, demon hunting, etc." He didn't specifically fix the caliber of the bullets because he didn't have a gun yet. He could simply wait until he bought the bullets before matching the corresponding gun. In the midst of the silence, a female beyonder sitting in the same corner replied in a low voice, "I can help you ask, and I'll give you the answer at the next gathering." It seemed to be the lady with the artisan backing her. Klein's side. "All right." After the gathering ended, he didn't return to Mince Street directly. Instead, he went to Eastborough and changed his clothes, heading to the border between Northborough and Hillston Borough. It was where the suspected member of the numinous episcopate, Kapusky Reed, lived.